Picture this. You are out on the water. The sky starts getting a little bit dark. The wind picks up, and suddenly the rain starts coming down. What do you do? If you are like almost every single fisherman I see out on the lake, you start panicking. You reel in as fast as you can. You throw your rods into the bottom of the boat, and you run for cover. You sit in your truck or under a tree, totally convinced that the fish have stopped biting because the weather got bad. But here is the absolute truth that is going to sting a little bit. By running away from that rain, you just walked away from the biggest, most aggressive feeding window of the entire week. I guarantee you are leaving the water exactly when the real monsters are just waking up and getting ready to eat. Today, I'm going to reveal exactly why the old belief that rain kills the bite is nothing but a fairy tale. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will be praying for dark clouds and heavy rain on your next day off. But first, let me ask you a question, and I want you to be honest in the comments. How many times have you completely given up on a fishing trip just because you did not want to get your favorite jacket wet? We need to talk about why we all act like this, because this habit runs really deep in the fishing community. For generations, our grandfathers and our fathers told us that when the rain starts, the fish go deep. They told us the fish get scared of the pressure drop, or that the splashing on the surface makes them hide in the weeds. It is a belief that is baked into our brains since we were kids holding our very first fishing pole. Because of this, it has become a completely natural reflex to pack up and go home the second we feel a drop of water on our hats. It is comfortable to sit inside a dry house, and it is miserable to stand out in the cold rain. But here is the problem. We took a human comfort issue and we turned it into a fishing rule. We assumed that because we do not like getting wet, the fish do not like it either. Think about how crazy that sounds. The fish already live in the water. They do not care if they get wet. Yet, year after year, millions of fishermen make the exact same mistake, leaving the lake quiet and completely open for the one or two crazy guys who are willing to put on a rain suit and actually catch the fish of a lifetime. Let us start by looking at the very first thing that happens when the rain begins to fall. We are talking about the breaking of the surface tension. Imagine you are standing on the bank on a perfectly calm, flat morning. The water looks like a sheet of glass. It is beautiful to look at, but it is actually a terrible situation for catching big predators. In slick water, fish can see absolutely everything. They can see your shadow, they can see your fishing line, and they can see every single unnatural detail on your lure. They are nervous and highly suspicious. But the moment the rain starts hitting that surface, everything changes. Thousands of little drops break up that glass ceiling. The water surface becomes a blurry, chaotic mess. Suddenly, that big, weary bass or walleye feels completely hidden. Their natural fear of birds of prey or fishermen on the bank is gone. They know they cannot be seen from above. This immediate loss of fear is the first trigger that tells a big fish it is safe to leave the deep cover and start cruising the shallow flats looking for an easy meal. Now let us talk about the oxygen factor, because this is pure science that directly affects a fish's brain. During the hot days of summer, the water gets warm and the oxygen levels drop significantly, especially in the shallow bays. It is exactly like being locked in a small, stuffy room with no air conditioning. You feel lazy, you feel tired, and you definitely do not want to run around or eat a heavy meal. Fish feel the exact same way. But when a good rainstorm rolls in, it brings highly oxygenated water straight from the sky. As those raindrops crash into the surface, they churn the water and push fresh oxygen down into the upper layers of the water column. It is the equivalent of kicking open the doors and windows in that stuffy room and letting a cold, fresh breeze blow through. The fish breathe this in, and their energy levels completely skyrocket. They go from being lazy and resting on the bottom to feeling incredibly active and aggressive. This surge in oxygen is a massive biological trigger that tells them it is time to hunt. There is another massive shift that happens along the shoreline that most fair-weather fishermen completely ignore. Think about the heavy brush, the overhanging trees, and the steep mud banks. When a heavy rain starts washing over the land, it creates little rivers and runoffs that pour directly into the lake or river. And what comes with all that running water? Food. Hundreds of worms, beetles, ants, and grasshoppers get washed out of the dirt and swept right into the water. It is a completely free, helpless buffet falling right onto the heads of the fish. Smaller baitfish rush to the mouths of these runoffs to eat the tiny bugs. And wherever the baitfish gather in a panicked, distracted group, the big predators are waiting right underneath them. If you are sitting in your truck waiting for the rain to stop, you are entirely missing this magical washout period. All you need to do is put on a good waterproof jacket, walk down the bank, find where the muddy water is mixing with the clear lake water, and throw a lure right into that mud line. The results will honestly shock you. Let us break down the biggest myth of them all, the idea that barometric pressure drops make fish stop eating. You hear guys at the tackle shop say this all the time. They look at the dark clouds, tap the barometer, and say the pressure is dropping, so the bite is dead. That is entirely backwards. A falling barometer is quite literally the dinner bell of the underwater world. Fish have an organ called a lateral line, and they have a swim bladder. They feel the atmosphere getting heavy long before the first drop of rain even falls. They know a storm is coming. Instinctively, they know that after a severe storm, the water might get too muddy or too cold, making it hard to hunt for a few days. So, when they feel that pressure dropping right before and during the early parts of the rain, they gorge themselves. They try to pack as many calories into their stomachs as possible to ride out the worst part of the weather. If you pack up your gear when you see the dark clouds rolling over the tree line, you are leaving the lake at the exact moment the fish are desperately looking for your bait. We also have to talk about the light penetration, or the lack of it, during a rainstorm. On a bright sunny day, the sunlight slices right through the water. Predators like bass and pike do not have eyelids. They cannot squint. Bright sunlight is uncomfortable for them, so they dive deep or bury themselves in the thickest, darkest weeds they can find to protect their eyes. They become ambush predators, waiting for something to bump right into their nose. But when the rain clouds roll in, the sky turns grey and dark. That harsh light is completely blocked out. The whole lake turns into a comfortable, low-light hunting ground. The big predators do not have to hide in the weeds anymore. They come out and start roaming freely. They feel totally comfortable swimming in 2 feet of water in the middle of the day, something they would never do under a bright blue sky. This means your strike zone goes from a tiny little patch of weeds to basically the entire shallow flat. You have so much more water to work with, and the fish are actively roaming to find your lure. Let us address the noise factor. A lot of old-school guys think that the sound of the rain hitting the water scares the fish away. Think about how completely ridiculous that sounds when you really break it down. Have you ever dropped a pair of pliers on the metal floor of your boat on a quiet morning? It echoes like a gunshot underwater. Every fish within 100 yards knows you are there. The trolling motor, the splashing of your feet on the bank, the squeaking of your seat. All of these unnatural noises warn the fish. But when a steady rain is falling, it creates a massive blanket of white noise over the entire lake. The constant drumming of the water perfectly masks all your clumsy fisherman noises. You can walk heavier on the bank. You can drop a tackle box. You can run your trolling motor on a higher speed. The fish simply cannot hear you over the sound of the rain. You become completely invisible, both visually and acoustically. This allows you to get incredibly close to very big, very smart fish, without them ever knowing you are standing right above them. There is a specific situation you need to look for when you are fishing in the rain, and that is the transition zone where muddy runoff water meets the clean lake water. When it rains hard, dirt washes in from the banks, creating a brown, muddy plume. A lot of anglers avoid muddy water because they think the fish cannot see their bait. But big predators absolutely love these mudlines. They will hide right on the edge, staying in the clearer water, and look into the muddy water. Small baitfish get confused in the mud. They lose their sense of direction, and they stumble right out into the clean water where the big fish are waiting with their mouths wide open. It is the perfect ambush point. If you are out there in the rain, do not hide from the dirty water. Tie on something bright or something that makes a lot of noise and pull it parallel right along that dividing line between the brown water and the green water. You will be amazed at how aggressively they will strike a lure that pops out of that muddy curtain. One of the most counterintuitive things about fishing in the rain is lure selection. Most guys think that because it is dark and gloomy, they need to slow down and fish with finesse baits, like tiny little plastic worms dragged slowly across the bottom. This is a massive mistake. Remember, the fish are aggressive, they are energized by the oxygen, and their vision is slightly reduced by the low light and the surface chop. This is the time to put away the finesse gear and tie on the most obnoxiously loud, aggressive moving baits you own. We are talking about big spinnerbaits with giant Colorado blades that put off a ton of vibration. We are talking about loud, rattling crankbaits. The fish might not be able to see as far in the dark, rainy water, so they are relying heavily on their lateral lines to feel the vibration of their prey. You want to give them a very clear target to track down. Make them feel your bait before they see it, and they will absolutely smash it out of pure predatory instinct. Now, let us talk about the ultimate secret weapon for fishing in the rain: topwater lures. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking the surface is already chopped up by the raindrops, so how on earth is a fish going to notice a topwater lure? Let me tell you, there is something incredibly magical about a loud topwater bait, like a buzzbait or a big walking bait, during a steady rain. Because the surface tension is broken, the fish are already looking up. They know bugs and frogs are getting washed into the water. When you rip a loud buzzbait across that choppy surface, it stands out perfectly against the white noise of the rain. The strikes you get on topwater during a rainstorm are not those gentle little slurps you get on a calm morning. They are violent, angry, explosive strikes. The fish are totally uninhibited. They do not slowly follow the bait to inspect it. They just react and try to kill it. If you have never thrown a big, noisy topwater bait in the middle of a summer downpour, you are truly missing out on some of the most exciting fishing on the planet. We need to address the difference between a warm summer rain and a freezing cold front rain, because this is where a lot of guys get confused and frustrated. Not all rain is created equal. If it is early spring or late fall and a freezing cold rain blows in, dropping the water temperature by 5 or 10 degrees very quickly, that will actually shut down the bite. Cold water shocks the fish's metabolism and makes them sluggish. But that is not what we are talking about here. We are talking about those warm spring and summer rains. When the water is already warm, a 70-degree rain falling into 80-degree water is exactly what the fish want. It cools the surface just enough to make it comfortable without shocking their systems. So, you have to use a little bit of common sense. Check the temperature of the rain. If it is a warm, muggy thunderstorm rolling through in July, you better tie your boots tight and get out on the water, because that warm rain is the exact trigger that starts a feeding frenzy. Let us dive deeper into the psychology of the baitfish during a rainstorm. We always talk about the big bass or the big pike, but you have to understand what their food is doing to understand why the big fish are moving. Small minnows, shad and bluegills get very disoriented when it rains. The surface chop makes it hard for them to see predators coming from below. The sudden drop in light makes them nervous. They tend to group up much tighter together for protection, and they often push very shallow against the bank or right up against solid cover like boat docks and bridge pilings. They are looking for safety from the chaotic open water. Now, if you are a big, smart predator, what are you going to do? You are going to pin those nervous, grouped-up baitfish right against that solid cover. As a fisherman, this makes your job incredibly easy. You do not have to guess where the fish are hiding in deep water. You just need to fish the very edges of the shallow cover because the rain has pushed the entire food chain right to the bank. There is a massive mental barrier that every angler has to overcome if they want to be successful in the rain, and that is the barrier of their own comfort. Fishing is supposed to be fun, right? It is a hobby, so standing out in the rain getting soaked just does not feel fun to most people. But you have to ask yourself a serious question. Are you out here to get a suntan, or are you out here to catch a trophy fish? The guys who consistently catch the biggest fish in the lake do not care about being completely comfortable. They invest in very high-quality rain gear. I am talking about Gore-Tex bibs, totally waterproof jackets, and waterproof boots. When you are totally dry underneath your gear, the rain stops being an annoyance and starts becoming a massive advantage. You can stand out there for hours, comfortable and warm, while you watch every single other boat speed away back to the boat ramp. You have to train your brain to stop associating rain with a ruined day and start associating it with an empty lake and hungry fish. Let us talk about the concept of the empty lake, because this is arguably the best part of bad weather fishing. Think about your favorite fishing spot on a beautiful Saturday morning. It is an absolute zoo. There are jet skis doing donuts, pontoon boats playing loud music, and 50 other fishermen casting at the exact same spots you want to fish. The fishing pressure is insane, and the fish are completely locked down from all the traffic. Now, imagine that same Saturday afternoon when a huge rain cloud bursts open. Within 20 minutes, the jet skis are gone. The pontoons are gone. The fair weather fishermen are gone. The lake is entirely yours. You can fish your absolute favorite spots perfectly, taking your time without anyone cutting you off. The water settles down from the boat wakes, and the fish notice that the surface traffic has completely stopped. This lack of human pressure, combined with the biological triggers of the rain, creates a magic window where you essentially have a private, highly active fishery all to yourself. I want you to think about the transition moments of a storm. The rain does not just flip a switch all at once. There is a build-up, a peak, and a cool-down. The absolute most critical window is the hour right before the heavy rain hits and the first 30 minutes of the rain actually falling. The barometric pressure is plummeting at its absolute fastest rate during this time. The wind usually picks up, blowing baitfish against the shore. The sky turns from blue to dark grey. This is the golden hour. If you are looking at the radar on your phone and you see a red blob coming your way, do not run away. That is the time to fish faster and harder than you have all day. Cover as much water as possible. Do not sit in one spot, dragging a worm. Put the trolling motor on high, grab a moving bait, and hit every prominent point and piece of cover you can find. You are racing against the clock to take advantage of the most aggressive pre-storm feeding panic. We do need to have a serious talk about safety, because I am not telling you to go out and get yourself killed for a fish. There is a huge difference between a steady, dark rain and a dangerous, violent thunderstorm. You have to know the difference. If you hear thunder rumbling in the distance, or you see flashes of lightning, you must get off the water immediately. Holding a 9-foot graphite rod in the middle of a flat lake during a lightning storm is literally asking to be electrocuted. It is never worth the risk. But if you check the weather app and it is just a solid green band of steady, soaking rain with no lightning activity, that is your green light. That is the safe, productive rain we are looking for. Learn how to read the weather radar. Look for those large, slow-moving, low-pressure systems that just drop a steady, miserable-looking drizzle for hours. That miserable drizzle is exactly what produces the biggest stringer of fish you will catch all year long. Let us talk about boat positioning when the wind comes with the rain, because they usually arrive together. A lot of guys try to hide from the wind. They will drive to the back of a calm, protected cove so they do not have to fight the waves. While that makes casting a lot easier for you, it is terrible for the fishing. When the wind and rain are blowing hard into a specific shoreline, you need to be fishing that exact shoreline. The wind creates a strong surface current that pushes the warm surface water, the zooplankton, and the small baitfish right up against that bank. It is called the wind-blown bank, and it is a classic fishing pattern. Yes, it is miserable to hold your boat in the waves. Yes, casting into the wind is frustrating. But the big predators know that the food is being pushed against that muddy, rainy bank. If you can manage your boat control and cast your bait right into the crashing waves on the shoreline, you are putting your lure exactly where the active fish are aggressively feeding. Another crucial detail is how you manage your gear during a rainstorm. This sounds like a small thing, but it will ruin your day if you ignore it. Keep your tackle boxes completely shut when you are not actively changing a lure. If you leave your box open and it fills with rainwater, all your expensive hooks are going to turn into a rusty, useless mess by next week. Keep a small, dry towel inside a Ziploc bag in your pocket so you can dry your hands or wipe off your sunglasses when you need to tie a knot. It is incredibly hard to tie a complicated fishing knot when your hands are soaking wet and freezing and your glasses are totally fogged up. Preparation is everything. If your gear is organized and protected, you will stay calm and focused on the fishing. The guys who fail in the rain are the ones who are disorganized, getting their gear ruined and letting the frustration distract them from reading the water and feeling the bites. Consider the scent factor. We already established that vision is slightly impaired in the dark, rainy water, and we talked about using loud baits for vibration. But scent becomes a massive advantage here too. When fish are roaming around in choppy, low-light conditions, they rely heavily on their sense of smell to track down prey. This is the absolute best time to rub a garlic scent or a baitfish attractant all over your lures. If you are fishing a soft plastic, dip the tail in a bright chartreuse dye that has a strong garlic odor. As you pull that bait through the dark water, it leaves a scent trail behind it. A big bass might miss the visual cue of your bait, but it will swim right through that invisible cloud of scent, turn around, and track it down. You are trying to appeal to every single sense the fish has. Give them vibration, give them a bold silhouette, and give them a strong smell. Give them no excuse to ignore your presentation. Let us look at a specific scenario. You are fishing a deep weed line in 15 feet of water. It has been sunny all morning and you have caught absolutely nothing. Then a heavy summer shower rolls in. Instead of staying out deep, I want you to immediately pick up your trolling motor and move directly to the shallowest, thickest cover nearby. I am talking about lily pads, shallow docks, or flooded timber in just 2 feet of water. The rain gives the fish a roof over their heads. They do not need the deep water for protection anymore. They will use the cover of the rain to completely invade the shallow zone to hunt frogs, mice, and shallow minnows. By shifting your focus from the deep, slow water to the highly aggressive shallow water the absolute second the rain starts, you are staying one step ahead of the fish. You are meeting them exactly where they are going to feed, rather than waiting for them where they used to be resting. The bottom line is that fishing is a puzzle, and the weather is simply one of the pieces you have to solve. The old myth about rain killing the bite was created by guys who wanted an excuse to go back to camp and drink coffee. It was never based on the biology of the fish. Fish do not own umbrellas. They do not care about getting wet. They care about eating, surviving, and hunting efficiently. A rainstorm provides them with low-light camouflage, highly oxygenated water, and a disorganized, panicked food source. It is the perfect storm for a predator. The next time you are on the water and you feel that first cold drop hit the back of your neck, do not look at your watch and decide to pack it in. Smile, zip your jacket up tight, tie on your most aggressive lure and get ready. Because while everyone else is running for the boat ramp, you're about to have the entire lake and the biggest, hungriest fish in it entirely to yourself. So, let us wrap this up and get straight to the hard truth. If you have been spending your whole life packing up your rods the second the sky turns grey, you have been missing out on the most explosive action the water has to offer. The real turning point in your fishing career comes right now, when you finally realize that the rain is not your enemy, it is your greatest ally. The drop in pressure, the oxygen boost, the acoustic camouflage, and the washed-out food all combine to trigger a massive, violent feeding window that most guys never get to see because they are too busy hiding in their trucks. Do not be that guy anymore. The next time the weather turns nasty, I want you to be the one angler left standing on the bank or sitting in the boat, ready to capitalize on the empty lake and the hungry predators. Stop letting an old myth dictate how you fish. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. If this video changed the way you look at a rainy forecast, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right now so you do not miss any of our future tips. Make sure you smash the like button, it really helps out the channel. And before you go, I want to hear from you down in the comments. Be totally honest with me. What is the biggest fish you have ever caught in absolutely terrible rainy weather? Share your stories below. Let us prove the old myth wrong together, and I will see you on the next one.